How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to your favorite aviation channel, and today I'm very excited to present to you a brand new model airport, not just for this channel but also to YouTube as a whole. So as you can tell by the title, today we are doing Houston Intercontinental Airport Terminal D. Of course, I don't have enough space or airplanes to do the entire Houston Intercontinental Airport, but Terminal D was a rather easy diorama to do here, and of course I will show you all around momentarily. If you saw last week's airport update of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport Terminal D, you might recall that towards the end of that video I mentioned that I am trying to do one new model airport every week this summer, and my plan is to get a new airport update out every Monday. So hopefully, if all goes to plan, you will see a brand new model airport every Monday from here on out. Of course, I have summer classes that will start today, so I'm not too sure how much time they will take, from getting that goal, making that goal a reality, but we'll see what I can do there. So some future model airports that I have coming, of course next week I'm planning to do Rockford, Chicago Rockford International Airport. That's been a model airport that a lot of people have been requesting me to do, so if all goes to plan, I'll bring Rockford to you all next week. And then in the future I also have Chicago O'Hare Terminal 1 Concourse C, Chicago O'Hare Terminal 5, Newark Terminal B, or one of the terminals at Newark. I can't decide which one. It'll either be Terminal B or Terminal C for Newark. For 4th of July, which is perfectly going to fall on a Monday, I'm planning to do Washington Reagan National Airport, DCA, because, nation's capital on the nation's birthday. That's a pretty perfect combination there. And then I think that's all for the US. Internationally speaking, I would love to do Doha Hamad International Airport because I have a pretty big Qatar Airways fleet now. It's about 7-8 planes. So that's big enough to justify doing a Doha model airport. And then last but not least, Islamabad, Pakistan. That's going to be one that I'm really hoping to do later this summer. Literally, like every video that I have made in recent history, I always get at least one comment asking me to do Islamabad. So if all goes to plan, I'll do my best to bring Islamabad to you all towards the end of the summer. That'll be huge because a lot of people have been requesting Islamabad for the past like 2-3 years, literally. A lot of people have been requesting Islamabad, so hopefully later in the summer we'll get to do that. But today's focus is on Houston IAH. That's the IATA code for this airport. This is the main airport, of course, for Houston. You also have Houston Hobby, which is largely a domestic airport dominated by Southwest, but that airport is irrelevant for this video. Let's just focus on this one, the big airport for Houston, Houston Intercontinental. And when I say Houston later in this video, I'm going to refer to this airport as solely Houston, so don't get it confused with the Houston Hobby as well. I'm just going to refer solely to this airport because Houston Hobby for the rest of this video is irrelevant. So here's a brief overview of the diorama here. This is Terminal D, like I mentioned. This is the international terminal for this airport, which ironically is the same name is given to DFW's international terminal. Their international terminal is also Terminal D. So down here in Houston, Terminal D is also the international terminal here. So that's kind of funny how that worked out. Of course, Houston's Terminal D is a lot smaller than DFW. It's only got about 12 gates, as you can see, and it's just a straight line. So not nearly as big as DFW, but you also have to consider that United, which is of course the top dock, the hub airline at this airport, they don't operate international flights from this terminal. United's international terminal is Terminal E, so all of their the vast majority of their, like 90% of their international flights depart and arrive at Terminal E. So if you've seen my recent trip report from Chicago to Houston that I uploaded last week, we actually arrived into Terminal E because that plane that I was on, the 777, it was going to go off to London as its next flight. So Terminal D here is basically just for the international airlines that Houston gets, aside from the Canadian airlines, like I've always mentioned in previous, like I mentioned last week in DFW's update, flights coming from Canada or other countries that have pre-clearance. The passengers go through immigration in Canada or whatever country has pre-clearance, and then once they land in the US, they're treated like a domestic passenger. So the plane doesn't park at a international terminal, it parks at a domestic terminal, or in Houston's case, it's I think Terminal A. So Air Canada, WestJet, they don't park at this terminal. It's all the other international airlines. So the airlines that serve Houston, international airlines, of course we have ANA from Japan, which is pretty cool because ANA serves Houston, but Japan Airlines does not. And on the flip side, Japan Airlines serves Dallas, but ANA does not. And you can pretty easily guess why. DFW is a One World hub because of American Airlines, and Japan Airlines is a One World airline, One World member. And then similarly, Houston is a Star Alliance hub because United is the hub airline, and ANA is a member of Star Alliance. So it's pretty cool how those two Japanese airlines, kind of, planned that out. It's pretty cool. I don't think they planned it out, but it's kind of cool how that works. Of course, we have Emirates, then you have Qatar Airways, you have Aeromexico. Houston's a big Latin American and South American hub. You have Aeromexico, and then you also have Volaris there, British Airways, Turkish, Lufthansa, and then Spirit has their international arrivals here. Some go here, some go to Terminal A or Terminal something else, I don't know. And then United doesn't fly from here mostly, but there's some remote stands across from the gates here. So there's four of them, so you have these two and then these two here. So United parks wide bodies here certain times during the day. And then before I forget, United does have some flights from Terminal D, not a lot. It's just a couple Embraer 175s that fly in from like some smaller Mexican cities. They end up parking at these three gates, D1, 2, and 3. And then the other carriers that I don't have models of, well, I do have models of some of them, but I couldn't include them in this video. Of course, you have Air France and KLM. I don't have any Air France. I do have a KLM, but it's kind of broken, so I'm hoping to fix that up soon. So you have Air France, KLM, you have EVA Air. They don't fly to Houston right now, but they will be resuming their service from Taipei next week. Wait, what day is it? This video, I think, is coming out June 6th. And I'm gonna say EVA Air, I don't care. They're gonna resume their flight to Houston on June 9th. So 3 days after this video comes out, EVA Air will come back to Houston. That's what's planned. But I'm filming this video on June 2nd, so I can't put them in here just yet. Air New Zealand is supposed to come back as well in July. I don't have Air New Zealand. Air China suspended their route. I don't know when they're gonna come back. You also have Viva Aerobus, which is another Mexican carrier. I don't have Viva Aerobus, unfortunately. Of course, Avianca El Salvador, they fly here. I don't have them. And there might be one that of course, Singapore Airlines. How could I forget Singapore Airlines? A350-900, they fly here from Singapore via Manchester, which is a really cool route. I don't have that model, unfortunately. That would have been really cool to include here, but I do not have that one. I think that's all the international airlines flying to Houston, and then of course that's the list of airlines that I do have and the ones that I don't have. So, and really quick, here's a really cool fact that I'm pretty sure most of you didn't even know. This is pretty cool to me personally. Back in the day, around 2004, 2005, PIA actually used to fly to Houston very briefly. I don't know how long exactly, but I think their service didn't even last more than a year or two. But they flew to Houston via Manchester, I believe. I don't know where. It was either Karachi or Islamabad, but I can't remember from where they flew to Houston. But if you search up Pakistan International Airlines Houston, you'll see pictures of their 777-200ERs back when they were brand new flying into Houston, and also the 747-200s. So really, really cool. That was back like the 2004 time period. So it's changed a lot since then. And the reason for that is, if you didn't know, Houston is a really big Pakistani population. I think before the pandemic, 2018 numbers from Houston to Karachi, passenger numbers, I think is like 18,200 people that flew between Houston and Karachi in 2018. So that's like 50 people a day, which is not enough, of course, to support a nonstop, well, not a nonstop, but like PIA to fly here, like a specific, service to Karachi or whatever. It's not enough people, but still pretty good amount of people that flew to Karachi every day from Houston. So yeah, really big Pakistani population in Houston, just like there is in Dallas and of course Chicago, LA, New York, etc., etc. So that was really cool. And also Atlas Air, for those that don't know, they used to have a nonstop service from Houston to Luanda, Angola on the 747. And back in the day, back when Houston was a continental hub, because United got this hub from Continental when they merged with them. Continental used to fly, I think, Houston to Lagos, Nigeria on the 777. Of course, they ended that eventually. Ethiopian also used to fly here. They suspended their route due to the pandemic, sadly. But back to that Atlas Air flight from Houston to Luanda. The reason they did that was because Luanda and Houston are both really big oil towns. So that flight, I believe, was only to transport employees between Angola and Houston, or Luanda and Houston. So they would use those really cool, like, green livery 747s to fly that route. I don't even know how long that flight was, maybe like 13, 14 hours. But they ended that a few years back, unfortunately, I believe due to rising fuel costs or something. But I don't believe that was a public flight. It was maybe like a charter that they would do every week or so between Houston and Luanda, Atlas Air 747. So those are some really brief facts that I thought were really cool. Let's continue with the update. I think that's enough talking because you guys are probably tired of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I haven't talked about. So brief rundown, 12 gate terminal, gate D1 all the way down to D12 here where that Spirit Neo is. And then, yeah, and then of course these hard remote gates that I covered earlier. So that's a brief rundown of the terminal, and I think that's a good stopping point to move into the actual aircraft. So let's begin there. So starting over here at gate D1, we have the United Express Embraer 175, operated by Mesa Airlines, I believe. They're the main E175 operator out of Houston. This aircraft just came in from Querétaro, Mexico as flight 6178 at about 5:40 p.m. And I forgot to mention this airport update is based between 5 to 7 p.m. So all the aircraft that you see in this update, of course you wouldn't see all of them here at the same time, but these are the planes that you would see between 5 to 7 p.m. So again, you would not see all of them at the same time. You would see a few of them at the same time, but not all of them. But I just wanted to put them all in because, you know, it's just one update and I want to have fun with it. So yeah, this aircraft came in from Querétaro, and at about 6:48 p.m. it'll be departing out to Albuquerque, Albuquerque, New Mexico on a domestic sector there. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, Terminal D gets a few United Express E175s coming in from Mexico, or I believe it's actually just Mexico that they fly these in from, because all the other flights go to Terminal E, which is like I said earlier, the main international terminal just for United Airlines. So you'll get maybe like 2 or 3 here at the same time, E175s from smaller Mexican cities like here, Querétaro, Mazatlan, Manzanillo, those, you know, smaller cities. So that's kind of represented here, which is really cool. I don't have more than this. I just have one E175. Otherwise, it would have been nice to show more of those smaller communities. They're not even small cities in Mexico. They're huge cities, but compared to like Mexico City and Cancun that are big tourist destinations, you know, Mazatlan, Querétaro, and Manzanillo, Hermosillo, etc., they're just, you know, they're small compared to the bigger cities like Mexico City and stuff like that. So yeah. Next up here at gate D2, we have the All Nippon Airways Boeing 787-9, just getting ready to push back for its return flight to Tokyo Narita as flight 173. Scheduled departure time of 5 p.m. and it comes in around 3:10 p.m. as flight 174. And I'm glad I did this this airport update because, you know, I have this 787-9 just sitting around. I bought it originally for my Honolulu airport that I used to do updates on back in 2017. Of course, I don't anymore, but I would love to bring it back eventually. But I barely get to show this airplane in videos, so it's really cool that Houston gets the 789, so I could showcase this. And it is parked at D2. It doesn't really, there's no like, you know, gate marking that I drew here, but in real life D2 is both a wide body gate and a narrow body gate. If you look at it on Google Maps or whatever, you'll see a kind of diagonal line. It says D2WB, which means D2 wide body, so it has a separate line coming like this. So ANA usually parks there, or D4 or D5, but yeah, one of those 3 gates. So really cool to see that. I love ANA's livery. So awesome, and I wish we could get these more in Chicago, the 789. We usually just get the 777-300ER, but yeah, super cool to see that. So of course, with the ANA 787 being parked at D2, that does mean D3 was empty because when you park a 787 at D2, it is a big plane, so it also ends up blocking out D3. Next up at D4 though, we have the Emirates 777-200 LR, which arrived at 4:50 p.m. as flight 211 from Dubai, and it has about 3-hour turnaround time here in Houston. We'll depart back out to Dubai at 8 p.m. as flight 212. As you can see, it's getting heavily serviced in between that time frame. Emirates does fly the 777-200 LR regularly to Houston. It's actually, for the most part, always been a 200 LR. I mean, they began Houston, I believe 2013 or 20, I can't remember the year, but ever since they began Houston, they've usually been using the 777-200 LR. And then once they resumed this route after the pandemic last year, a few months ago, they brought back the 200 LR. It was the A380 though, back in 2015 or so, 2016. They were flying 380s to Houston and Dallas regularly, which was really cool. But unfortunately nowadays it's the 200 LR. I got to see this actually when I was in Houston. We were taxiing out for departure, and I got a really crappy picture of the 200 LR landing. That was A6EWE. This one here is A6EWI. Ironically, I also have a model of A6EWE, but it's a bit worn, a bit old compared to this one. But yeah, that's Emirates for you there, D4. And here at D5, we have the Qatar Airways Airbus A350-1000. This airplane is just getting ready to push back. The gate's about to detach, and it will push back for its return flight to Doha as flight 714. It's a 6:10 p.m. departure, and the aircraft arrives around 4:10 p.m. as flight 713. It is a 350-1000 service mostly. I believe when they started it back in 2013, 2014, it was a 777-200 LR. I always used to see this flight flying over here in central Illinois, and I still do. I see it sometimes. Well, actually, no, I haven't. I haven't seen it in a while, but we do get these Middle East, a lot of Houston flights in general, they fly over here in central Illinois. I've seen Emirates, Turkish, British Airways, Lufthansa A380 back when they used to fly that to Houston. So we get a lot of Houston flights flying over here, which is really cool. And yeah, you might have also noticed that the international carriers here, if you've been paying attention so far, they have relatively short turnaround times compared to other cities. On average, it's usually about 2-hour turnaround time. The plane will come in at like 3 p.m. or something, for example, and then depart back out at 5 p.m. So really short, layover times for these international carriers in Houston compared to other airports like Chicago, where it's longer, like 3-4 hours, maybe even 6 hours for some carriers, and then DFW as well. So that's interesting to see. If anybody knows the reason, let me know in the comments below. At gate D6 here, we have the Aeromexico 737-800, arrived from Mexico City as flight 470 at 5 p.m. and it'll be departing back out to Mexico City at 6:20 p.m. as flight 471. Aeromexico flies also the Embraer 190 to Houston on behalf of their regional subsidiary Aeromexico Connect. Of course, I don't have that model, so I'm not able to put that here, but I do have this one, so of course I had to. Central America as a whole, South America as well, big market from Houston. You have a lot of flights from United because this is their main hub to South America and Central America. And then you have also Aeromexico, Volaris, Avianca, Viva Aerobus, all of those airlines operating multiple flights a day to countries like Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras. And then as far as South America goes, for example, you have Colombia. I believe we also have Peru, Brazil. Crazy. Huge market. Latin America in general from Houston. At gate D7 here, we have the British Airways Boeing 787-8, arrived at 6:30 p.m. That's a scheduled arrival time as flight 197 from London Heathrow, and then has about 2-hour layover here in Houston before it departs back to Heathrow at 8:30 p.m. as flight 196. So British Airways, currently they're flying the 787-9 on this route. They did fly the 787-8 on the earlier flight. They had, I think it was flight 194 and 195 or something like that. It was a 787-8. It would arrive at 2 p.m. or so and then depart back out at like 4 p.m. So it was a 787-8. Unfortunately, they ended that route last week, I believe, or the week before. And so now they only have this one daily service, 197, 196 on the 787-9. Of course, I don't have the 9, so I have the 788, which is just as good. At gate D8 over here, we have the Volaris Airbus A320neo, which also arrived from Mexico City, just like the Aeromexico did. But this came in at 6 p.m. as flight 874, and it'll be departing back out to Mexico City at 7:30 p.m. as flight 875. So it's just getting some bags offloaded because it just came into the gate. So luggage is getting offloaded and it'll receive service for the return to Mexico City very soon. Alright, moving over to gate D9, we have the biggest passenger aircraft that Houston gets on a daily basis. Lufthansa Boeing 747-8, just getting ready to push back for its return flight to Frankfurt as flight 441. This is a scheduled departure of 3:45 p.m., so it does have a pretty significant delay here, but I had to put this plane in the update somehow, so even if it does have to be delayed, I mean, it's in the video, so I hope you guys are happy with that. And this aircraft comes in at about 1:45 p.m. as flight 440, and then 3:45 p.m. departs back to Frankfurt as flight 441. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video, Lufthansa used to fly the 380 here to Houston, and I used to see it flying over all the time. I have old pictures and I might have some video back in the day, 2015 or so. I remember filming it flying over. And I do remember also photographing it as well as the Qatar Airways flight to Houston, and some United 777s going to Houston as well, flying over here at 38,000 or so feet. But of course Lufthansa retired the A380 sadly, so Houston no longer gets that. Otherwise they used to get it every day. But the 747-8 is, I mean, it's a huge plane, of course. Not nearly as big as the 380, but it is a pretty impressive airplane nonetheless. So yeah, unfortunate that they lost the 380, but I mean, I'm really happy that they are getting the 747. And this gate particular, D9, I believe this is always used by Lufthansa. Even when I was in Houston, I saw this airplane parked at D9, the old livery though, not the new livery. But yeah, I believe D9 is like a exclusively Lufthansa gate. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I think like every day I've been tracking the flight like the past few days, and that didn't sound creepy at all, did it? But I've been looking it up on Flight Radar 24, and Lufthansa like seems to always park at D9, which is really cool. And yeah, it's getting ready to push back there. Next up at gate D10, we have the Spirit Airlines Airbus A319. Scheduled arrival time is 7 p.m. from Guatemala City, Guatemala, as flight 1177. And it'll be spending the night here in Houston. I believe it'll probably get towed to another gate because its next flight is at 8 a.m. the next day, flight 1045 to New Orleans, Louisiana. So I'm not too sure how that works. I believe maybe it's like Chicago where they'll arrive on an international flight into the international terminal and then either taxi over empty to a domestic terminal or, get towed to a domestic terminal to operate the next, set of domestic flights or whatever. So came in from Guatemala and it's going to go off to New Orleans tomorrow morning. And then before I forget, like I said, Latin America as a whole is a big market from Houston, and Spirit has a really good amount of flights to Latin America, not just Guatemala but also Mexico and Honduras, in attempt to compete with United, try to get some of those passengers. They are the second biggest airline in Houston, Spirit. United has of course, 46% of the market share, and I think Spirit has 10%. But still, that's pretty impressive, Just like DFW, Spirit is I think Spirit's also the second biggest in DFW, which is impressive. But yeah, they get a lot of traffic, not just domestically, but also down south to Central and Latin America overall. So gate D11 was empty, but as we'll see in a few moments, we have an airplane coming into D11 momentarily. Last gate at the terminal, D12, Spirit A320neo, came in at 6:34 p.m. as flight 902 from Cancun, Mexico, which is actually the second busiest route from Houston. Mexico City is the busiest route from Houston. And then it'll be departing at 9 p.m. as flight 200 to Chicago O'Hare. And so D12, as you can see, it is a double gate in real life. I'm not sure if they have another parking here or something like that. I do know that KLM uses this gate, so they'll park their 787 here at this main stand. I wish I had the KLM 787 so I could put it in here, but I don't. But cool, Spirit, that's nice too, I guess. And over here on the taxiway, we have the Turkish Airlines Boeing 777-300ER, just landed from Istanbul as flight 33 and is taxiing in to take gate D11 right here. So that's flight 33 from Istanbul. Scheduled arrival time is 7:10 p.m. So like I hinted at earlier in the video, you would never really see Turkish in Houston at the same time as Lufthansa and Qatar Airways and ANA, because those three flights would have been long gone before Turkish came in. But for the sake of this video, I just really wanted to put all these planes in at the same time. So yeah, it's coming in from Istanbul, and then it'll depart back out to Istanbul as flight 34 at 9 p.m. Turkish recently added a second service to Houston. I believe it's flight 133, 134. It's a morning / early afternoon flight on the 787-9. I think it comes in at like 9 a.m. and then departs out back to Istanbul at 12 p.m. So that's 787-9, but this is flight 3334, which has always been here. It's the the regular service to Houston on the 777. So just wanted to mention that. Thought it was really cool how they added a second service, because they did the same thing with Chicago too. We have 787-9 that comes in the early morning afternoon, and then we have our usual 777, which also comes in the evening. So really nice to see that here. Alright, so those were all the aircraft that I have routes for, but I just really briefly wanted to show you all the remote stands here. So we have some United Heavies just parked over here. So here's the one that I really wanted to show you. This is the Star Alliance 777-200ER. New release by NG Models. I recently got this in the mail like a week or two ago. Beautiful plane. They did an exceptional job on it. And I'm really happy to have this because I actually flew this exact plane from Chicago to Denver last year. So I'm really happy to have that in model form. I also have it in 1/200 scale as well, if you've seen it in one of my previous videos. But it's cool to have it in 1/400 as well. So there's that one. We have the 787-9 like I just showed you, in the 767 here. I know I might get some comments saying, why is the air stairs on the right side? Well, guess what? It's not. They're not boarding passengers right now. If you actually look at it on Google Maps, go search up Houston Intercontinental Airport on Google Maps or whatever, or Apple Maps, zoom in and you'll see a 787-9 with air stairs on the right side. So please don't get mad at me. I'm just doing my part to keep the realism alive. So same case with that. Usually when you have planes that are sitting at a remote gate, not boarding passengers or whatever, they'll probably have air stairs on the right side, just because why not? I think I've seen that before. So yeah, not sure how often United parks planes here. I'm assuming it'd be pretty often in between long haul flights. You'll have planes coming in early morning from like Hawaii, or that's not even that long. I mean, Hawaii is a pretty long route. Honolulu to Houston, despite being a domestic route, is like what, 7.5 hours. So I guess they might park planes here in between, during the day. If a plane comes in early morning and then has a late night departure, they'll probably put it here. Early morning arrival from like Honolulu, for example, and then a late night departure to say like Sao Paulo or London or Frankfurt, whatever it might be. So yeah, cool to replicate that here. And then in the middle between like these sets of remote gates, you have like a giant GSE storage place. Just look at it up on Flight Radar or Google Maps or something. You'll see what I'm talking about. So that's it for this airport update. Hope you enjoyed it. My camera is about to die, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of it. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're only 500 away from 20,000. If we can hit that by August 15th, which is this channel's 10th anniversary, that would be incredible. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's get to 20K before the 10th anniversary. Thank you all so much for your support, and thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Stay tuned for more airport updates coming every week on Monday. And until then, I will see you later.